I've been on nofap for over 470 days and even cured my corn-induced ED. Now, I struggled with this for over 10 plus years, and once I had the right system in place, I solved it just with 1 week. And now I help men do the exact same thing, get there to a faster solution without all of the trial and error that comes with it. And in today's video, we're going to break down the real reasons your dating life sucks. Now, it's not about apps, it's not about luck or even timing. It's really about a deeper issue that most men don't even want to admit. But once you understand this, you'll see exactly why you're stuck and finally how to fix it. Now, number one, the silent epidemic. And I've wanted to talk about this for a while because I really do believe that it is and could be labeled as an epidemic. And what is that hard truth, right? You see a lot of these headlines about dating in general, and what does it say? It says things like, right, men are getting married and having families even later, right? A lot of people are not even getting into relationships. Like, what is going on with this generation? And really, I think one of the biggest reasons, and I know one of the biggest reasons this is because men are struggling, especially at a younger age with ED, right? Not being able to get it up. And it's crazy, right? Because in the past, this was only an older man's issue, right? People would look at it and say, oh yeah, you got to be 70, 80, right? Basically way older to have a problem with this. But even if you look at the statistics and even reports, there's a lot of reports and a surge of younger men dealing with those type of issues, right? And when you look at it, what's going to happen, right? People are going to be are not going to want to speak out and say what's actually going on. And this is a huge reason why you see a lot of people, right, and probably even yourself, struggling in relationships, not maybe being aggressive as you would like to be, or even going for those longer term relationships because you have weak areas that you have to fix, right? And really what happens is with this, then you end up voiding, right, intimacy, and you stay stuck in the same place for a long period of time. Now, number two, the first cause of this, right? What's actually behind this whole movement, right? And it's the corn use, right? So what does that do? Now, number one, it rewires your brain and kind of destroys your arousal, right, with a partner. So what happens is you're at a period in time, right, where let's say you've never been exposed to this before. And what happens when you're exposed? You get an insane rush of dopamine. And what does that dopamine do? It causes you to want more, right? You just got this huge rush of something that was pretty much free because you had access to it through, the internet, and you could get that through pretty much anything, right? It was easy to get access. And even in the past, of course, there were more barriers, but now people have internet, right? And you can just access whatever you want. But what happens is when you get this rush, it causes you to have this cycle to where your baseline ends up becoming higher for what that threshold that you need to just be happy. And what happens is you want to keep going higher and higher to try to hit that threshold. And it's basically a loop where your brain requires more to get you to like a baseline level of happiness, and it stacks on top and top of each other. And there's really no limit to this. Now, the problem with this, of course, is what does that cause, right? That causes what some would say an addiction or even just a bad habit in general, right? And what happens is it retrains and rewires your brain to, instead of going for actual partners, you take the easy way out. Because think about it like this: in regular relationships, right? And even if you're approaching people, right, talking to partners, what happens? You deal with feelings, you deal with rejection, right? You deal with all of these different things that you have to improve. Maybe it's you have to be in shape, have your style on point, right? Smell good, all these things, and you can bypass them and you get a quick release of dopamine, right? So it trains your brain to go for pixels instead of real intimacy, which leads plenty of men, probably hundreds of thousands, who knows the number of people that struggle, right, with getting it up, especially at a young age. And what's crazy is you might even look at them and look at yourself and say, man, I'm in shape, right? I feel like I'm doing the right things. Why am I having this type of result? Well, that is one of the huge and biggest reasons. Now, point number three, the second cause, right? We talked about the corn use was the first, right? The second is lifestyle. So lifestyle has a lot of different factors that people love to overlook. Now, what does that come with, right? Lifestyle. you have things like sleep. So poor sleep for sure, right, cooks your testosterone, right, decreases your testosterone. You'll be in a point where you're just basically not the same man, right? Your hormone levels are literally different. Things like stress, right? Stress also can affect things like dopamine, also libido, right? All those different things that you basically, again, are operating at a different version of yourself. Diet. Now, diet is a huge one where a lot of people, right? Think about all the sugar, all the junk food, the instant gratification, right? You Junk food, it makes you feel good, but you know it's not good for you. It's not going to produce good results in your body. So it's all of those different things, and all of these really do one huge thing, right? When we talk about struggling in a relationship, especially with, not being able to get it up, is it crushes blood flow. Your blood flow is cooked, right? And then what happens? Your blood flow is cooked, your testosterone is low, and you can't make it happen, right? You get into that position where you're with a partner and boom, you basically can't make it happen. You get embarrassed, you feel bad about yourself, and it's just a cycle that keeps happening over and over again, and you just can't figure out why. Now, quitting corn is a first step, but it is not enough if you don't address the underlying lifestyle as well. Now, both buckets must be handled very, very securely. Now, I built a course teaching exactly how I stayed free and went on nofap for over 470 plus days, multiple 100 plus streaks, and even cured my corn induced ED. So if you're ready to stop wasting years of your life, you're tired of trial and error, embarrassing yourself, when you do get with a female or are with a partner, and you want to fix this for good, click the link in the description down below. Number 4, burying yourself with work. Now, I personally related to this one because I remember the only outlet that I had, because I couldn't solve this painful problem, was I would bury myself in the work, right? I had businesses that I wanted to start, things I wanted to accomplish, and I felt like since the relationship life really wasn't moving anywhere, what could I actually do? Well, I could work hard, right? I could get good grades, I could grow my business, but deep down, it was always this area that I knew, regardless of how much money I made, right? Regardless of all these other accomplishments, I didn't have self-control. And many men feel like that now, where they use money as a tool to try to cover up some of their weaknesses, right? Where what you have to realize is that just because you have success on paper and people's perception of you may be successful, you know deep down that this is an area that you want to change. You know that even if you made $1 million, right, it still wouldn't help you. It still wouldn't give you self-control. You literally have the same problems. So this is regardless of the amount of money you make. And you really can't buy the confidence or connection, right? Because you can have all the money in the world, but if you can't have relationships, right, you can't leave your legacy on this earth by having even children. Is all the money in the world really worth it, right? Now, you may not want to have kids, but at least have the option, right? Or even intimacy, just being in a relationship in general. You're missing out on a ton of just life pillars. And the longer you delay this, what does that look like for your life? Maybe you're 30, 40, 50, and you end up not being able to have, kids at some point. You never reproduce. You don't have relationships. You're literally just stuck. And right, things won't change unless you change. And that leads me to number 4, excuses keep you stuck, right? A lot of people blame this on, you try to hide behind these external factors, right? You try to hide behind, oh, it's just because the dating market, right? Social media ruined the dating market. Women have all of these options, this and that. But you lack your self accountability. You lack the control over yourself and your own two hands and your mind to actually change. Right, and it's easy because that's what the internet chases with. They chase those titles about basically people can do, with social media you have unlimited options. But really remember, the problem lies with you. It's not all these external factors that you think. The truth to improve this is improving your own life and your own habits, right? And as long as you deflect and blame all these other things, literally nothing will change. And you have to look at the world in terms of this lens. People have, and you have clearly been doing this, right? What have you had? You've been satisfying yourself. And especially nowadays, people have the tools to satisfy themselves and just instant gratification times 10 in terms of what people used to be able to do, right? So because you're able to satisfy yourself, you're way less likely to need to rely, right, on a partner. If you think even in the past, right, one of the biggest reasons people would get married, especially women, is because women literally couldn't make money or couldn't make those type of salaries, right? So they would rely on men to really lead the household, make the money, and all of those type of things, right? And obviously the world is different now, but in this case, since people have the tools, right? You have social media, you have all these different things that can satisfy you, right? People are less likely to get into relationships and even commit because they have all of these distractions. Now, number 6, secrecy fuels shame. Now, of course, if you've been pushing off relationships and you've been pushing off, right, not even intimacy, just relationships in general, right? What happens is you tend to want to hide this from people. So you've probably tried a lot of different things and you still can't figure out, why can't I make this work? Why can't I be consistent? And obviously you have to think, right, in order for you to test and actually see if things are working for you, you would have to put yourself in a position to where you're going to fail. What does that mean, right? You're probably going to meet someone, right, try to escalate things. And if you fail, again, it makes you look even worse. And you kind of you get in this cycle of where you're in a position to where you're in a bad spot, right? Because you can't make it happen in a relationship when time comes down to it. But then on the other hand, you look at it and you say, I know I can't make this happen, so I'm going to stay in my bubble where it's safe and it's comfortable. But after time, you have to understand that you'll literally face more problems down the line than if you solve this today, right? And honesty and really accountability of your own actions is literally the first step to actually making change, right? The cycle only gets worse. And you also are in a bubble to where you know that if you try, you may fail, and that's going to be painful to you. There's going to be a lot of pain associated with trying, right? Because, if you fail, what if she goes and tells other people, right? What if other people hear about this, hear about my shortcomings, my failure, right? All of those different things run through your mind. And sure, it's possible, right? But what's also possible? You actually making a change, right? I solved this problem that I had technically for years and years, right? It kind of jolted my relationships as well. And definitely your lifestyle and the addiction play a huge factor into it. And you don't have to waste, years and years struggling with trial and error. You don't have to be embarrassed, right, about going through these different things, because what you need to do, right, if you want to change and you want actual results in your own life, you need to take different actions. Don't expect to take the same actions and expect a different result. And if you're interested in learning more about this solution, click the link in the description below. And if you enjoy these types of videos, click this next video on the screen to learn more.